Hi Heather, okay, here's your spread, and you can see the background is a little different than my other ones because I am out of town, but I'm very excited to do this, and as I was laying it down, a lot came through even before I was finished laying it down, so I'm kind of excited to get to it. And so what we're looking at here is where we are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day, another important day, your death, and the lesson learned, and we'll get hits of time period throughout, okay? So right off, we're starting in Asia, all right? And so what came through before I laid this card out, which is always like really cool to me and fun, and is Russia. Is it Russia or right around Russia? But I feel like we're looking at Russia, and I feel like we're looking at like the countryside, okay? So we're not looking in St. Petersburg or any cityscapes right now. We're very much in the countryside, kind of like we're looking at like a farmerish kind of life. That's what it feels like. And which is really normal actually, because some people expect to see royalty and things like that, but most of our lives are kind of average Joe kind of lives, and it's the lessons in the lives that really count. So it's really cool that we're going to this life actually, because I think we're going to see some interesting things regardless of the fact that we're looking at a farmer's life. And so right here, this is called the provider card. It's what you do with the majority of your time. And what's interesting is that I feel like we're looking at a female's life, however, even though it's the provider card. And yeah, it also says hunt too. That's for hunters or whatever kind of hunter-gatherer, or the person that is providing for the family. So that's what it really means. And it's interesting because I feel like we're looking at someone who you were married, and there was like a death or something that occurred that left you kind of in charge of the household, so to speak. And that's what kind of like off the bat, that's what it feels like. So your job is to make connections where you can as we go through this, and I'm going to try to help you throughout. All right? Okay, so we got the where, we got the what you did. Now let's go to the first important day and see what's happening here. All right. So here we have the birth card. And that doesn't always mean a birth, like you're giving birth. It can mean that you're witnessing a birth, or it could be your birth even. It can mean various things, but this one is you giving birth. And this is the relationship involved with it, and that's the family card. And the negative positive duality feelings card. And that can mean that there's torn feelings, or purely positive, purely negative. And what I'm getting here is a mostly positive, however a little tinge of negative, because I feel like the living style we're looking at is a very poor living. It's very poor, and it's like I feel like you know what this feels like? It feels like you're under a regime of, it feels like what's it called in Russia when like the Tsarist movement, like the I want to say like even in, this is like 1700s, 1800s. That's what it feels like. And it's showing me, so the woman it's showing me is like dressed with a dress, long dress, kind of like an apronish kind of thing. I'm getting like very bland colors. What it's doing is it's coloring this whole life in a kind of like bland beigey, gray, browns, these colorings that are very kind of blandish. And I feel like that is kind of to emphasize that this life is not a fun life. This is a very practical life that we're looking at here. It's hard work. And really the only joy that you partook in was having children, but even the children were useful for helping at home. So they had to kind of like earn their keep in a way, even though you love them. And you're not going to kick them out, but like they had to work. Like even the children are workers here, and that's every kid in the village. And I feel like we're looking at a very small town. I feel like it's not like you have a next door neighbor, because I feel like you have a little bit of land. And I feel like the land is for crops. And I feel like that's what the people do out here. So you know your neighbors, but it's like a good walk to get to a neighbor's house. And then there is like a small town center I'm seeing, but it's very bland again. Your lifestyle is very frugal here. So how you can make connections just through that is, one, in this current life, you could be someone who's really frugal and you don't need to be, but you're just frugal, or you're tight pursed. You know what I mean? Like you feel like you can't spend money, or you want to save money, or you don't do frivolous purchases. On the other hand, how you can make connections is that you are someone who does make frivolous purchases and does spend money unnecessarily, who might even be financially irresponsible because of how responsible you had to be here. So you see how you can make connections either way. So keep that in mind. All right. So we're on this day and you're giving birth. This is not your first child. I feel like we're looking at a family of at least 3 children, and it's almost like one comes after the other. I feel like that's a norm here. I feel like there's a feeling that you have where you're like almost partly expecting to die with each childbirth. I feel like there's not a lot of health like care near you at all. It's very like rudimentary. It's just very like, not primitive, but it's very like you don't have like a doctor nearby, or if there was a doctor, it's not like you can afford him, or if you paid people to help out. I feel like this is more like a midwife kind of thing, but it's almost like, I almost don't see a midwife here, but there should be. I feel like maybe almost like it's your 3rd kid, so you don't even have help. I feel like you do this mostly yourself. I don't see a husband in the room. I'm just like seeing a room where I feel like it's very quick, and there's your kid. And I feel like it's a little boy. I feel like there's a girl in there, that you have this boy, and then I can't tell you what the 3rd one is. But I feel like there's at least three kids. You know what? There's a little girl in the room helping. I think you have a daughter who's actually helping you through this birth. She's old enough now. Almost like, it's funny because she's really young too, but she's like 6 or 7. And I feel like that's old enough for her to be helping you with this birth. I don't know. You know what you could do is also look it up online about like how people lived back then, and if that was kind of a common thing. That's always fun to look up. Okay, so we're seeing this day where your family is growing. And this is a big day for you because there's not a lot of celebrations. I want to say like even your marriage, it's not like a big party. It's like there's a union, there's a ceremony, and it's the kind of thing where your dress is just like either passed down to you, or the dress isn't really what we consider a wedding dress. It's like just slightly better than what you would wear on your daily, day-to-day kind of wardrobe kind of thing, okay? So we're looking at a very poor existence. Now that can also mean in your current life, you might be someone that worries about money. You might be someone who's having financial issues and you feel like, why me? Like, I'm not doing anything to make this occur. It just keeps happening. And it could be because of the soul memory that collects, and you subconsciously allow it to like keep continuing throughout this current life. And that can be, you can get rid of that. That's something that doesn't have to be there because it doesn't serve you if that's the case. So anything we find in our current life that's not serving us, that comes from a past life, we can get rid of it either through regression or certain meditative techniques to let go and release those certain things. So keep that in mind because it's not necessary if that's the case. On the other hand, you could be someone in this life who is very well off or doing very well or very comfortable because of what you went through here. Okay, this is like a life of pure simplicity. But also they're showing me the feeling of, with a simple life, there's something very easygoing about that in a way. It's like there's a struggle for money, but you're still able to feed yourselves. But every day it's the same work and the routine. There's a routine to this. It's very routine. So in your current life, you could be someone who is spontaneous and just wants to, go away for the weekend and come back, and you want to get out of routine. You could be someone who doesn't like routine. It's because there's so routine here and there's nothing you could do about it. In your current life also, on the flip side, you could still be continuing that routine kind of thing because of this life. So keep that in mind, alright? So we're coming from this really nice day, actually. It's really funny because, like, you're not out for long either. Like, you give birth and you get back and you keep doing what you gotta do. Okay, so we come to this day. Here's the death card. There's death in this place, and that can mean a lot of things. However, what's coming through is the death of your partner. Now, this karmic relation card, it's interesting because this person who is in your life, he's someone who's part of your soul group. That's what it feels like. And his death even though it's like, I want to say his death, like the death, anyone's death during this time period, I feel like it's not like a huge surprise, but it's still a devastation. But here, you're not really able to mourn and grieve and spend time like we do now. Like we spend a lot of time grieving, months, years. Here, it's like you bury that guy and you keep going, and you have to keep going. This feeling is such a survival feeling. So the feelings right here it's interesting. It's rolling right along. And this could mean like peaceful, but it's not, you're not happy about this, but you have to roll right along. That's the whole point. Is you don't have the luxury of grieving, if that makes sense. So in your current life, that could mean that you're someone who bottles up your emotions, who doesn't show your emotions right away. You're not reactive to certain things, perhaps. Maybe when someone dies who's close to you, maybe you're not a crier. You know, you're just like, it's almost like you might see death or hardships or whatever it is as like practicality. Like, well, okay, they're dead and there's nothing I can do about it. And, you know, you might have those kinds of feelings about it. And that's okay. And that comes from living a very practical lifestyle. Here, there was no luxury, no time to have the luxury of grieving. On the other hand, in this current life, you could be a big, weepy, sobby baby about everything because of what you had to hold in here. You see, so you can do either way. So keep that in mind. If you're uber emotional and you release, and that's great. Or if you're someone that bottles it up and doesn't necessarily show emotions, maybe you're someone where people have kind of told you that it's in a sense inappropriate. Oh, you're not crying because they died? That's weird. Just don't worry about it. If that's the case, don't worry about it. It's okay because you had to go through this, okay? So, this, let's see. I don't feel like there's even a communal burial place where this person goes. I think you bury the body close to home. I feel like you get a couple of men from the town or like your neighbors to come and help you. I think if anything, the children are pretty affected, but you have this under control and you're very good about dictating to the kids, you need to do this. So in your current life, if you're someone who's like, you know, you can like kind of run a party or run a household, or maybe when you get into groups, you are the leader, you're the one that's able to kind of see what everyone's good at and what they should all be doing. Keep that in mind because that would come from here, because now you're running the place. You already kind of were actually with him. He was a hard worker, and there's the feeling that comes through for this partner is appreciation. So you could be someone in this current life who the traits you're looking for in a partner or that your partner has that you love are the generous acts that he does for you or she does for you. You know what I mean? So what is that? Like there's love languages, and one of the love languages is something like doing tasks, you know, like doing things for you. And that might be one of your love languages, is when people do things for you. It's not necessarily telling you that they love you, it's what they do to show you that they love you. That could be the thing that is your thing that's really important to you, because that's what it was here. There was more showing of love than telling of love. And this person could possibly be in your life currently too, because there's a karmic relationship you have with this person. It doesn't necessarily end at the death, but you're in each other's lives to kind of balance things out. There's a balance here, because I feel like you're more of like a you get things done, you're all over the place, you in a good way, like you get everything done, and this person was more like laid back but a hard worker. So he was like quiet, laid back, hard working, and you were getting everything done, and you were quick, and you went here, you were a multitasker, and you were the one that talked if anything, and things like that. So there was like a nice balance going on, and that's what you might be looking for in a relationship, or have, is the balance. And if you're in a relationship and you're not too happy, it could be because you feel like there's not that right balance. Some people think that in a relationship they need to be the same, and it's not that they have to be opposite either, but there's always something nice about bouncing off each other, the difference, you know, someone who does talk, someone who listens. That's a nice balance, and that's what you could be looking for or already have, and that's what you love, or that's what would suit you or best in this life. Okay, so let's go to the death. Okay, so this death is not a pretty death. I feel like what we're looking at are not bandits, but I feel like this was a kind of a rough death. I want to say this was a break-in. I want to say this was someone also that you might have known because they knew that there wasn't a man in the house. So I feel like this was a break-in. This could have, this is an honest reading, so I want to say it was brutal in a, man taking advantage of a female kind of way. And so I feel like it was just kind of a brutal kind of like a robbing, like an aggravated assault robbing death kind of thing. And how I'm seeing it is a bit of a strangulation involved. It's not like a shot to the head. It's not like it's not even really like a blow to the head, is it, or anything like that. I feel like we're looking at strangulation. So in your current life, if you have throat issues, if you clear your throat, if you have problems like swallowing, or you have problems communicating, expressing yourself, talking, anything that has to do with the throat, physically or mentally or emotionally, so whether it's speaking or even having to clear or coughing a lot. You also might be someone who has a dreadful fear of rape or being victimized as a female or something like that isn't really, there's no reason for it. So if you have fears or paranoias that have no basis in your childhood, or there's no reason for it, it would stem from this from this kind of thing. You also might have issues with security in your home. You might want security, like the idea of a secure system, or maybe you're someone who's even had relationships with men who are strong, or partners, I should say, who are physically strong that make you feel safe. That might be something you actually look for subconsciously in a partner, is someone that makes you feel safe because of this. So keep that in mind. All right. Okay, so what's really interesting is we have the Dream Big card as your lesson, and that's really interesting because you weren't able to do that here. There was no dreaming here. Dreaming that's not even a word that you would even come across here, because this life was all practical. And there was no room for anything frivolous or anything fantasy. And so in your current life, I feel like the big message, the reason why you're being shown this, is because in your current life, you're meant to go after your dreams. Even if they seem big and crazy and silly and weird, the whole point is whatever excites you, you need to follow that. You need to follow the thing that is pulling at you. If you want to start a project, if you want to sing, if you want to perform, if you want to start a business, if you want to invent something, like, go for it. That's what I'm getting here. The biggest message here is go for it, because you already paid your dues in this life. Your current life is meant to be full of your dreams. It's meant for you to go after what you want. This is the time when you can, and you're in the time period in history when it's so possible. There's so many things you can do. There's so many ways you can get whatever you want out there, or start something. There's classes available. There's just, the opportunities are amazing now. So it's time to take advantage of that, and you have like the universe's permission slip to go for it, if that makes sense. Okay? So there's your past life reading. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for letting me read you.